once this starts here. All right, we're live right now. Shalom, I'm Brother Doug with the Awakened by Yahuwah Assembly. My mom's with me over here. Um, the left of me on the other side of the room, we got Brother Hari join us as a guest. We got Brother Yahusha, Brother Joshua with us. We got Sister Sadie and Brother Masha. So we're going to be doing today our usual Sabbath day readings where we do chapter by chapter, book by book. And what I usually do is I read from the Septuagint, but I also compare these readings. A lot of the times I'll compare with a basic Masoretic text, Tanakh, whether it be NLT, ESV, or sometimes the scriptures translation. I usually try to have that handy as well. So for you viewers, I'm going to make it easy for you guys. I'm going to put on the shared screen the Word software so you guys can see side-by-side comparison. So that will help you guys out that are viewing this on YouTube, and probably later we'll see this shared on Facebook. So let's see here. So let's go to Exodus 15. Go to compare, range modules to compare. LXXE, which is the Bretons. FYI, that's the 1851 Bretons. And let's go with ESV 2011, just for simplicity. All right, so here we go. This is the Song of Masha here. Then Masha sang, and the children of Yashrael this song to Elohim, and spoke, saying, "Let us sing to Yahuwah, for he is great, very greatly esteemed. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. He was to me a helper and protector for salvation. This is my all, and I will esteem him, my father's Elohim, and I will exalt him. Yahuwah bringing wars to nothing, Yahuwah his name. He has cast the chariots of Pharaoh and his army into the sea." Oh, I should write this down. This actually could have used this on that other video we did the other day about exposing Jasher. Could have used that, but I'll write this down to add to the document. Clearly, Pharaoh died in the Exodus. He did not survive. Keep that as a little extra proof there. His army into the sea, the chosen mounted captains, and they were swallowed up in the Red Sea. He covered them with the sea, and they sank to the depth like a stone. Your right hand, O Elohim, has been esteemed in strength. Your right hand, O Elohim, has broken the enemies. And in the abundance of your esteem, you have broken the adversaries to pieces. You sent forth your wrath. It devoured them as stubble. And by the breath of your anger, the water parted as under. The waters were congealed as a wall. The waves were congealed in the midst of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoils, I will satisfy my soul, I will destroy them with my sword. My hand shall have dominion. You sent forth your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty water. Who is like to you among the mighty ones, O Yahuwah? Who is like to you, esteemed and set apart and as marvelous in splendors, doing wonders? I think that's an important one. I'm going to jot down for another study we did way back about the divine council there. All right, here, verse 12. You stretch forth your right hand, the earth swallowed them up. You have guided in your righteousness your people, whom you have redeemed. By your strength you have called them into your set apart resting place. Interesting. The nations heard and were angry. Pains have seized on the dwellers among the Philistines. Then the princes of Edom and the chiefs of Moab hastened, trembling, took hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan melted away. Let trembling and fear fall upon them by the greatness of your arm. Let them become as stone till your people pass over, O Yahuwah, till this your people pass over, whom you have purchased. Interesting. Little oneness there, whom you have purchased. Down. Verse 16 there. Whom you have purchased. Okay. Verse 17, bring them in and plant them in the mountain of their inheritance, in your prepared habitation, which you, O Yahuwah, have prepared, the set apart place, O Yahuwah, which your hands have made ready. I think this is like a foreshadowing to possibly to the millennium or the new heaven, new earth there. Because it says what your hands have prepared. Obviously, the tabernacle was not prepared by Yahuwah's hands. Obviously, Solomon's temple was not prepared by Yahuwah's hands. So that's why I think verse 17 might actually be a prophecy there. Go ahead, brother Yahusha.
Also, the fact that it says plant them on the mount of your heritage, Mount Zion.
Yeah. So like a heavenly Zion coming down. Yeah. Yeah. And you see that in Psalms. Isn't it in Psalms, Mom? There's certain Psalms that will kind of distinguish from the current Zion and like a heavenly Zion up in heaven.
I think so.
There's like, I could have swore I've seen allegories in Psalms that shows that. Yahuwah reigns forever and ever. So again, his kingdom's forever. Daniel 7 there.
Yeah.
For the horse of Pharaoh went in with chariots and horsemen to the sea. Yahuwah brought upon them the water of the sea, but the children of Yasharel walked through this dry land in the midst of the sea. And Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aharon, taking a timbrel in her hand, then there went forth all the women after her with timbrels and dances. You know what's interesting when you look at both the Greek and Hebrew for timbrel? It's a small little drum. So you know the tradition with the Baptists, oh, you can't use drums, and you know if they only knew. Drums were used by the Hebrews, and drums are not evil. But I don't want to go on a whole tangent about that. But anyway, go ahead, brother Yahusha.
Also, we see her moving in, she's putting forth worship or she's leading forth worship, but she's leading women in this. Masha does his song, and then Miriam goes forth leading the women. So
yeah, that's a good catch. A toe catch there. That's, I'm gonna write that down. That's actually gives credence to Shaul there. That yeah. Yeah, she's leading the women, possibly the daughters too. If they have any daughters, are probably following her, dancing. And Miriam led them, saying, let us sing to Yahuwah, for he has been very greatly esteemed. The horse and the rider has he cast into the sea. So Masha brought up the children of Yasharel from the Red Sea and brought them into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water to drink. And they came to Merah and could not drink the water, could not drink of Merah, for it was bitter. Therefore, he named the name of that place Bitterness. Wonder if there's any connection to wormwood about the water. Just curious how you see the Greek word for wormwood, I think in Revelations is absinthe or something like that, is like similar to the word absinthe. So I kind of wonder. There might not be a connection, but I'm just kind of curious about the bitterness thing. And the people murmured against Masha, saying, "What shall we drink?" And Masha cried to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed him a tree. He cast it into the water, and the water was sweetened. There he established him ordinances and right rulings, and there he proved him. So again, proving him, old Middle English, it's talking about testing, or to prove something, you're testing something. This is the one thing I do like about the Masoretic here. It says diligently. He said, if you will indeed, I see why they don't have diligently. Okay, so that's probably not understanding that the Hebrew of what it means to hear means to diligently hearken. Okay, so that's why. And said, if you will indeed diligently hearken the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, do things pleasing before him, and will hearken to his commands and keep all his ordinances, no disease which I have brought upon the Egyptians will I bring upon you, for I am Yahuwah your Elohim that heals you. And they came to Alim. There were 12 fountains of water and 70 stems of palm trees. They encamped there by the waters. So before we start the next chapter, I see a lot of spiritual connections here, like parallels. You got the 70. The 70 is used a lot by Yahuwah. Just FYI, you had 70 elders, 70 angels over the 70 nations in Deuteronomy 32:8. Historically, they would have understood that according to the boundaries of the Agios Theos, to understand that you have one principality over all the nations that came out of the Tower of Babel. So you had one principality for each of the 70 nations. So yeah, so I mean, Yahuwah uses 70 a lot. Most obviously, if there's 70 nations, you got 70 different languages from the Tower of Babel as well. So yeah, 70 seems to be used a lot in the Hebrew culture a lot. So definitely something behind that. I'm trying to think the tree. I thought it was interesting that a tree made the water sweet.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And Yahusha, allegorically, the tree of life, right? We kind of would interpret Yahusha as allegorically the tree of life, and even the interestingly enough, even Judean culture, traditional Judean culture, actually would interpret the tree of life as the Torah. So I just find that interesting as well. So sometimes Yahusha can be allegorically categorized as a tree, or people allegorically categorized as a tree in scripture. And the fact that a tree is used to make the water sweet, Yahusha took our bitterness, our cup.
Right. That's right.
Right. And so in essence, he made it sweet for us that we would be able to be grafted into Israel and all that. So that's how I kind of see a parallel there between Yahusha and that physical tree that's thrown into the waters. Also, the fact that Yahusha calls himself the living waters and all that, the fact it's being thrown into the waters. So you could almost even say that there's this would be like reaching a little bit, but the fact that the tree is thrown into the waters, Yahusha was immersed by John the Immerser. I mean, I'm kind of reaching a little bit, but at the same time, you could make a case for that. Go ahead, brother Yahusha.
It's interesting that right after the water is sweetened is when he establishes ordinances and judgments.
Interesting. That would parallel with the fact Yahusha, when John the Immerser paves the way for him, and immerses him. After that, isn't that when Yahusha's ministry starts and he starts giving out commands to his apostles and all
Yeah,
that?
he goes to the wilderness first, and then he,
Okay.
for 40 days. And then
Okay.
Then he
All right.
chooses the disciples. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so I don't know if there's anything else to bring up there in that chapter. I mean, this is a great psalm. You want to talk about psalms? This is a psalm we're commanded actually to sing, by the way. That at least Masha was commanded to sing. And if I'm not mistaken, there's another one in Deuteronomy that we're actually commanded to sing. Is Deuteronomy 32. Is a lot longer of a psalm, but it is a psalm. That whole chapter of Deuteronomy 32 is a psalm, and I'll just show you guys what I'm talking about here. So
There's a guy that does this in song, right? Who is that guy that you
oh, there's
see?
multiple people. You have Alan Horvath, who was most famous for the Song of Masha in Exodus 15.
Mhm.
But this is also a psalm that actually was sung by Masha as well, that everyone forgets about this one. Deuteronomy 32, everyone forgets about this one, but this was an actual song. So all the way through the whole chapter, it says, attend, O heaven. It starts at, attend, O heaven. I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. So Yahuwah is teaching this psalm to Masha, and he's having Masha teach this whole psalm of Deuteronomy 32 to the children of Yashrael. And the reason it's being taught to them is that this psalm prophetically is foreshadowing their apostasy. That's going to happen. So the reason Masha is told to teach it to them in Deuteronomy 32 is like, okay, I know you're going to go wayward. This is a psalm to remind you of, basically how well I've treated you so far, and you're about to go wayward from me. So it's kind of a reminder to try to prevent them from doing that. But this is a psalm that like everyone forgets about for some reason. Like Exodus 15 gets all the honor and esteem, of people doing renditions of it, but no one ever wants to do Deuteronomy 32. And you see like early in the chapter, as he's giving this song, teaching this song, you see already the foreshadowing of their waywardness. They are no longer his children because they are blemished. They are a crooked and twisted generation. And he goes through the whole psalm, how Yahuwah gave them honey from the rock. He did this for them and that for them. And, they didn't appreciate it. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
So like Yahuwah doesn't just do something just to do it. So you think that there are actually, I would expect there are actually people that were listening and took the warning, versus just everyone not taking the warning,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like Yahuwah's character that he would just give this song for them to pay attention to it and then no one take heed.
No, I agree.
I don't know.
Yeah, he definitely did it
Always
for
a remnant.
for the people that would listen. I think that was the whole purpose, and warning those that this was going to happen, because I think a lot of them didn't realize in their hearts that they were going to betray Yahuwah that quickly. I think even when you see other times Masha warning them, like, I know when I die, this is what you're going to do. And they're like, no, we would never do it. And Masha's trying to warn them, like, listen, you're going to do this once I pass away over here. You guys are getting into the land. I'm not allowed to get into this land because of what I did striking the rock and all that. And, because Yahuwah told him to speak to the rock, and he hit it twice with his staff, and who was like, well, because you didn't set me apart, you're not going to get into the land. So that whole situation, that's one of the instances of many where Masha's like, okay, I know you're about to become apostate once I die here. I know what you're going to do. Kind of similar to Paul. Doesn't Paul say the same thing? He's like, I know after my departure, there's going to be ravenous wolves that are going to turn you away to weird doctrines. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
I think that's why it's important. Like, Yahuwah wanted to have a relationship with his people. He wanted his word to be written upon them rather than them having to, go to Masha or go to a man. But that's what they wanted. They wanted to go to a man. They wanted a king. And so they didn't even have their own relationship with Yahuwah. So I can see that as a way eventually leading them to fall, because they didn't have it in their minds and in their hearts like we do.
Yeah.
Not to say that we can't fall, but
Yeah. No, very true. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this song here, like in Deuteronomy 32, just so we're aware of this, because I know a lot of people they love talking about Exodus 15, but this song in Deuteronomy 32 is like never talked about. And it's one of the more important songs in scripture because it kind of teaches them what's going to happen. And it teaches them that, listen, I know you're going to turn away from me. I know you're going to turn away from me. And I think towards the end of the song, if I remember correctly, he talks about, you eventually when all this happens, you're going to seek me. Eventually, when you're, kind of similar to like Deuteronomy 28 and all that, I know you're going to turn away. I know you're going to, you're going to serve these idols and do this and that, even though I'm giving you honey out of the rock, even though I'm bringing you to this wonderful land you never worked for, and all that. And so this is a very important psalm of that he has Masha give to them. And yeah, so but anyway, I wanted to talk about something too in from Exodus 15 from the Song of Masha that we read about here. What I found interesting, it says, who is like you among the mighty ones? And I always never understood that. I'm like, what? I'm like, aren't they supposed to be non-existent? They're just wood and stone. But he says, who's like you among them? Who can measure up to Yahuwah among these lesser Elohim? And if there is no such thing as a divine council, to me that verse makes no sense, and it's out of place if there's no divine council. So I just find that interesting, trying to see what verse that was in Exodus 15 where it talks about it. As much as he wants, according to, hold on, do I have it wrong? I'm in Deuteronomy, that's why. Yeah, I figured I was in the wrong book. Okay, so you have, I think it's supposed to be verse 11 here. Yeah. Who is like you among the mighty ones, O Yahuwah? Who is like to you, esteemed and set apartness, marvelous in wonders, esteems doing wonders. By the way, you can see the same concept. Later on, I think Mash even calls Yahuwah multiple times. He calls him King of the Elohim, or even Elohim of Elohim sometimes. He's the Alua of Elohim. He is above the rest of the mighty ones. And so that, yeah. Breathe underwater. wait, which is that a real midrash? Oh, that I'm gonna have to
just
look that
kidding,
up.
bro.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't be surprised, man. They make up some stuff, man, like Pharaoh being somehow converting at this point and living after the Red Sea crossing and becoming king of Nineveh. Man, I don't know where they come up with some of these things. I don't know.
They say that Janus and Jambres flew up into the Shemayim and had war with the Malakim. So some crazy.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. Weird stuff, man. Weird fables. But yeah, that to me is very interesting. Exodus 15:11 kind of shows me the same concept that we see and from that song I actually just pointed out. If you look at verse 8 of Deuteronomy 32, says he set the boundaries of the nations according to the messengers. In the Septuagint, which also, by the way, the Dead Sea Scrolls chooses the same reading as the Septuagint, as well as the ESV, by the way, says sons of Elohim instead of B'nai Yisrael. So the ESV actually chooses the Dead Sea Scroll reading over the Masoretic in Deuteronomy 32:8, by the way. So one positive about the ESV translation. They actually do try to consult with the Septuagint and other manuscripts sometimes. They actually do try to do that. So anyway, so let's see here. I think I don't want to beat a dead horse there, but we're going to go to chapter 16 now. Mom, would you like to read chapter 16 for us? All right.
Okay, entitled Manna and Quail. The whole out from Alim and came to the desert, which is between Alim and Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month, after they had come out of Egypt in the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moshe and Aaron. The Yasharites said to them, "If only we had died by Yahuwah's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve, this entire assembly to death." Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, "I will rain down bread from heaven for you, and the people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days." So Moshe and Aaron said to all the children of Israel, "In the morning, you will know that it was Yahuwah who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning, you will see the esteem of Yahuwah, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us?" Moshe also said, "You will know that it was Yahuwah when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against Yahuwah." Then Moshe and Aaron said to the entire Israelite community, "Come before Yahuwah, for he has heard your grumbling." While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked towards the desert, and there was the esteem of Yahuwah appearing in the cloud. Yahuwah said to Moshe, "I have heard the grumbling of the children of Israel. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am Yahuwah, your Elohim." That evening, quail came and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the children of Israel saw it, they said to each other, "What is it?" Which, by the way, is the definition of manna. It literally means, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moshe said to them, "It is the bread that Yahuwah has given you to eat. This is what Yahuwah has commanded. Each one is to gather as much as he needs. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent." The children of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by the omer, he who gathered much did not have too much, and he who gathered little did not have too little. Each one gathered as much as he needed. Then Moshe said to them, "No one is to keep any of it until morning." However, some of them paid no attention to Moshe. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moshe was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as he needed, and when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person, and the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moshe. He said to them, "This is what Yahuwah commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of rest, a set apart Shabbat to Yahuwah. So bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep it until morning." So they saved it until morning as Moshe commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. "Eat it today," Moshe said, "because today is a Shabbat to Yahuwah. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the 7th day, the Shabbat, there will not be any. Nevertheless, some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather it, but they found none. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, how long will you refuse to keep my commands and my instructions? Bear in mind that Yahuwah has given you the Shabbat. That is why on the 6th day he gives you bread for 2 days. Everyone is to stay where he is on the 7th day. No one is to go out. So the people rested on the 7th day. The people of Yashrael called the bread manna. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey. Moshe said, this is what Yahuwah has commanded. Take an omer of manna and keep it for the generations to come, so they can see the bread I gave you to eat in the desert when I brought you out of Egypt. So Moshe said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, then place it before Yahuwah to be kept for the generations to come. As Yahuwah commanded Moshe, Aaron put the manna in front of the testimony that it might be kept. The children of Israel ate manna 40 years until they came to a land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan. An omer is 1/10 of an ephah.
So it's pretty interesting here before I go to Brother Joshua, because Brother Yahusha has a hand up. Before I go to him, I'm curious that the Masoretic says by the hand of Yahuwah in verse 3. Septuagint's defining by the hand as Yahuwah himself. I just find that interesting. Rather than saying it by the hand of Yahuwah, we would have died by the hand of Yahuwah. It says, would we have died smitten by Yahuwah? So it's kind of interesting. The Septuagint sometimes will define Yahusha literally as Yahuwah himself. They won't like define him as a tool of the Father or, separate. Like literally Yahuwah's hand is himself. So I find that interesting. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha. Oh, Brother Yahusha, you're muted still.
Oh, geez. I was just thinking of the manna that's in the ark. Even to this day, it's probably still there. And I was thinking about back in my early days in Christianity and just really not grasping the power of Yahuwah. And I remember thinking, like, man, that must be moldy by now. So I don't know. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Kind of like how they thought, how is Yahusha going to raise back Lazarus whose body was already decaying? It's kind of like the same concept. It's like, how are you going to, was it Mary or Martha that said that to him? Like, his body's already decaying. How are you going to resurrect him? Yeah, so our limited human understanding will be like, how is that going to happen? Because we don't understand the supernatural divine nature of the Father. We don't understand how a lot of things that Yahuwah does, his miracles defy physics.
Oh yeah.
And that's what supernaturalism, if you look in the dictionary, that's what supernatural means. It defies nature.
Yeah.
It's above nature. It will not agree with the way the world was created. Like in a natural sense, it's gonna defy it, because even stupid gravity, I know gravity doesn't exist, I get it, but I'm just using an example. Like even with gravity, a lot of Yahuwah's miracles defied gravity.
Walking on water.
Walking on water according to gravity should not work. That should be impossible. So I think a lot of what we're taught with that supposedly it can't be possible because it defies laws of physics or this or that. We sometimes don't realize that Yahuwah can't be put in a box. His miracles can't be put in a box. And you can't confine Yahuwah's power to man-made science or scientism. Go ahead, brother Yahusha.
Even outside of his miracles, even outside of his supernatural miracles, even some of his own creation, like it at least defies their idea of what reality is. Like when you look at the bumblebee, they don't even have an understanding of how a bumblebee can fly, because it's got a big old body and it's got these tiny little wings. So even in his own creation, like he's put signs of, how he can do supernatural things and defy his own. Uh, you know what I was trying to say.
Yeah. And there's things that you can't explain that I would call part of Yahuwah's supernatural nature. Is the what was it, Mom? There's a place in scripture where a sword doesn't sink in the water. Somehow the sword was floating on the water and it never sank. I forget. There's some place like that. I was listening to Chris Putnam one time, and he was talking about it. He was talking about the supernatural nature and supernaturalism, how there's a lot of supernaturalism in the Bible that some people try to take out and don't want to accept. And there's supposedly a verse where someone's sword fell into the ocean, but it didn't actually go into the ocean. It stayed on the surface of the water, which defies all laws of physics. Go ahead, Sister Sadia.
Okay, I can't find it. Darn it! I did save it, but I don't remember where. But this is how I saw this video just for a couple seconds, but I stopped watching it and I lost it. I don't know where. I gotta find it. But do you know how in space they show the circle like a shell, like a seashell, right? Goes around and around and around. Okay. What this person was sharing was everything that we have has a pattern. The seashell has that same circle. It says that even some of the bugs have that same circle in their eyes, and the flowers and the birds. There is something, if you look at it, it's all has a pattern. Because Abba Yahuwah, he is perfect in all that he does. And there's something like how they say the DNA, the blood chain, how it has that, it goes around and around and around. That's Abba's creation. That is his perfect creation. But I got to find that video. It was amazing because just what he was explaining, and he was using all kinds of different creations of how perfect our Heavenly Father is. And there's a pattern that he had that he uses in a lot of things that we don't even see. But if you were to, look at it in a magnifying glass or even explore it, there is a pattern that Abba Yahuwah has. It is perfect, and it's used from flowers to animals to insects to humans. So I gotta find that DVD. That YouTube. I think it was something about Abba's creation, or I don't know what it was, but if you think about it, and they show the swirls up in the heavens. Well, those swirls are replica of the shell. The shell, the fish, it looks like a snail. The snails have it. Everybody, there's just a pattern that Father has that is amazing and beautiful. and all
Yes.
the dots are connected. Yeah.
It has to do with the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. I've seen that. There's more than just a pattern to it. There's also a mathematical sequence to it, and it's literally
Yeah,
found
you're right.
everything.
You're right.
It's the only sad part about it is people will take that and they will turn it into an opportunity for witchcraft. But yeah, I
Most
have seen that.
definitely.
It's in
They
everything.
get stupid. They just get so stupid. That's all.
Yeah, because unfortunately you got the Gaia people that go into that stuff and they pervert it and they want to learn all the frequencies and this and that and nonsense. And yeah, but I've seen that too. I've definitely seen that different patterns and flowers and all the creation and stuff like that. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. What I wanted to go into too was kind of interesting. We were just doing this topic last night, surprisingly. How to find Yahusha in the Tanakh, and this gives you two decent verses here. Many people will just read past and kind of be like, "Oh, okay, his esteem, okay, not a big deal." Now this is Yahusha here. The esteem of Yahuwah appeared in a cloud. This is verse 10 of Exodus 16. So this is basically FYI saying that Yahusha appeared in the pillar of the cloud. That's what it's saying. Yahusha is the exact representation of Yahuwah's splendor. Exact, equal. So this is Yahusha right here. In verse 10 and also verse 8 of this chapter is the first place you'll see it. It says, I think that's where it is. Where it doesn't talk about the splendor of Yahuwah here. Maybe I got the verse numbering wrong here. Oh, verse 7. Sorry, guys. Verse 7. Exodus 16:7 and 16, verse 10. So 7 says, and in the morning you shall see the splendor of Yahuwah, inasmuch as he hears you murmuring against Elohim, and who are we that you continue to murmur against us? So right here, Masha is saying you're going to see the exact representation of Yahuwah. You're going to see his esteem, his splendor appear to you. So we see here that obviously, right, he tells Masha that you can't see me and live. So how are they seeing his splendor then? His splendor has to be a form of himself that mankind can handle, which is Yahusha. This is him. This is Yahusha right here. So a lot of the times we read past these verses like the esteem of Yahuwah, the splendor of Yahuwah, and you'll see this like 30 different times in the Old Testament. This title is being used, and it doesn't compute because we don't understand Yahusha is the esteem of Yahuwah. That's who he is. So that title is exclusive to him.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show that, and I might actually add that to the document. We still haven't finished that study yet, so I might gives me an opportunity to add a couple one more title to that document, how to find Yahusha in the Tanakh. So we just did, my mom just read Exodus 16. So now, see here if we have any volunteers for Exodus chapter 17. See.
What's that, Sadia? You want to volunteer?
Under, ooh, right under the
Yeah,
bus.
right under. Yeah.
If you want me to give it a shot, I can.
Go
Hang
for
on.
it.
Yeah, sis.
Okay.
If you want, I'll give you an easy translation to read from if you want.
Okay, let me see what you got there. Let me see. Give me an easy one, please. Let me
Just
change my glasses.
whenever you see Lord, just say Yahuwah. Wherever you see God, say Elohim. That's all you need to know with this.
Okay.
Here.
All right, let's go for it. Okay. Tell me when.
Yep. All right. Right now.
Right there? All the congregation?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, all the congregation of the people from and by stages, according to the commandments of you, and camped at Rephaim, Rephaim, but there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore, the people quarreled with Moshe and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test Jehovah?" But the people thirsted for water, and the people grumbled against Moshe and said, "Why do you bring us up out of Mitzrayim to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried to Yahweh, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." Yahweh said to Moshe, "Pass before the people, taking with you some of the elders of Yasna, and take in your hands the staff, which you struck the Nile, and go to the rock. The water shall come out of it, and the people will drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Yasna, and he proclaimed the place Masha. And was that Meribah?
Meribah.
Meribah, because of the quarreling people of Israel, because they tested Yahuwah by saying, "Is this Yahuwah among us or not?" Israel defended Amalek. Israel does. And then Amalek came and found with Israel the Rephaim. So Moshe said to Joshua, "Choose for us men and go out and fight with Amalek." I say that, I'm sorry, I can't get that A in there.
Amalekites.
Amalek, right?
Yeah.
Amalekite, yeah. Tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll stand on the top of the hill with the staff of Elohim in my hand. So Joshua did as Moshe told him and fought with the Amalekites. While Moshe, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Whenever Moshe held up his hand, Yahzerah prevailed. And whenever he lowered his hand, the Amalekite prevailed. But Moshe's hand grew weary. So they took stones and put it under him, and they sat on it, while Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side, one on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalekites. We lost my spot again. Let's see. Okay, most where were we at? I got lost. Okay, and the Amalekites and his people with the sword. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Write this as a memorial in the book and recite it in the ears of Yahshua, that I will utterly blot out the memory of the Amalekites from under the Shemaims." And Moshe built an altar and called the name of it, "Yahuwah is my banner." Hallelujah. Saying, a hand upon the throne of Yahuwah. Yahuwah will have war with the Amalekites from generations to generations.
Question.
Go ahead, brother.
Is there a Bible that has everything like how you said change Lord to God or Elohim and whatnot? Like, is there a Bible out there that already has that or no?
There's a couple out there that clean up most of the terminology, but I have yet to see a Bible that, other than like the real expensive ones like the RSTNE, Restored Scriptures True Name Edition is like the main one out there that cleans up like every pagan word almost. Other than that, you have like a couple, like the Scriptures 1998, 2009 does the majority of it. The Restored Name King James does an okay job, but they're not going to clean up everything. You're still going to see holy, you're still going to see glory, you're still going to see, certain things. But for the most part, it at least helps people that are new to the names and stuff like that. I really recommend the Scriptures translation or the Restored Name King James. If they have Bible apps, it's probably the best, easiest Restored Name Bible to actually learn. So like for the shortening, when in the Hebrew it's shortened, it has Yah all caps. And then it'll have like the modern Hebrew for Yahuwah's name, where the Lord is almost every time. So for example, Yahuwah is my banner in Hebrew is Yahuwah Nisi. So that's where we get Yahuwah is my banner. Which again, it's I don't think every English word is a big deal to have there, because banners, there's something evil about the word banner. So, again, I think but if you're looking for a translation that's going to clean up a lot of the English, I would say, definitely look into the Scriptures 2009, Scriptures 1998, and the Restored Name King James. Those are very easy to get your hands on, for free. So you can find electronic versions of them almost on every app. I think the Bible app has the Scriptures 2009, if I'm not mistaken, the YouVersion Bible app.
Yes, that's the one I use all the time, the Bible app for the Scriptures.
Yeah. So like you can find TS 2009 like almost on every app. I have yet to find one that doesn't have it. There you got My Sword, YouVersion. Trying to think of other ones that would have the Scriptures. Bible Hub even has it. I think they have the older version. They have the 1998 version still. BibleHub.com has it. There's tons of apps out there that have the Scriptures or the Restored Name King James. I just like the Restored Name King James a little bit better because it sometimes will put in English the Tetragrammaton. So that's just a personal preference of mine. And I've always been a fan of the original King James, so I don't mind the Middle English. That's just me. Yeah. So the reason I had the ESV for Sadie was just simplicity of the English. It's very easy to read, and sometimes the names get really weird in the Hebrew. Like sometimes, like you can't even pronounce some of the names in the Yiddish the way the ISR has it. Sometimes I even get caught up with the modern Hebrew pronunciations and all that. So I just did it for simplicity reasons, putting the English Standard Version up there. But yeah, so whenever it's Lord all caps in your English Bibles, obviously Yahuwah, and God is a substitute for Elohim, Elohim. So, well, yeah. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha. I see you got your hand up.
Where's that? Hold on. Verse 7. Right at verse 7, it's like right after verse 6, where they strike the rock and water comes out. And you have them saying, it's called the place is called temptation and reviling because of the reviling of the children of Yashral, because they tempted Yahuwah, saying, is Yahuwah among us or not? And I think it's interesting because at the same, Yahuwah is among them, but they're doubting that he's even there. You have this same thing happen when Yahusha is struck, when he's crucified, he's among them. Yahuwah is among them, but they don't believe it. They can't even see it.
Interesting, yeah.
Also, I wonder if in verse 12, like when you get to, so you have Aharun and her standing beside him, supporting his two hands. I wonder if there's a parallel with them and the two witnesses, or the two that stand by Yahuwah um, post, the two olive trees that says they stand by Yahuwah.
Yeah, it's very possible. I find it interesting though that Yahuwah helps them supernaturally through this staff that he gave Masha. So this staff, I guess, is a symbol spiritually. It's you could even say kind of, I think the staff of Yahuwah kind of reminds me that Yahusha is going to rule with a rod of iron. And there might be a parallel with that, why Yahuwah's power goes to Masha as long as he has the staff up with his arm. There might be I definitely see a parallel with that. And what I also like here, though, is we get this concept that's similar in Proverbs to when you have a couple of brothers with you, it's hard to, what is the verse in Proverbs? It's hard to break a 3-chord or something like that. And that's what it kind of reminded me with this, because you have Masha failing, his arm is going down, and then you have you have her and Yahusha helping him. So it's like a 3-band is hard to break. I got that concept too. What I also thought was interesting is that they wore until the going down of the sun. Thought that was interesting. Like,
Brother Doug, excuse me.
Yeah.
In the 3-chord, it's in the Ecclesiastes 4, where it says, though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken.
Wow.
So the cord represents Yahuwah, right?
Yeah.
The cord of 3 strands.
Yeah.
And the groom and the bride. Braiding these 3 strands symbolizes the joining of one man, one woman, and Yahuwah in marriage.
Yeah, I was just reminded of that when looking at this story here, where Masha's weakening, and then Yahusha, son of Nun, and then her are helping him keep his arm up. And it's just showing that when the enemy tries to attack us, he always wants to get us alone. When we're together, it's a lot harder to defeat us.
Right.
So yeah. And let's see here. So what I thought was interesting too is that Yahuwah tells Moses, Masha, to write a memorial in the book and recite it in the ears of Yahusha. So it seems like this phrase here is actually written in a book. Probably, obviously we have, this book today, the Torah today, but it's interesting that Yahuwah has actually commanded him to write this statement down, that he will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. And I think one of the reasons is that Amalek was one of those tribes that kind of harassed Israel when they were coming out of Egypt, if I remember correctly. They, I forget if they're one of the ones that did not meet them with bread. I forget exactly what they did, but they did something to arouse Yahuwah's wrath, to where Yahuwah he's not going to show mercy on the Amalekites. He's going to wipe them out. But I just thought it was interesting too, that his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. So I found that interesting. Like, it's the end of a day. They fought until, sunset. Just thought that was interesting. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to share.
Oh,
Okay. Let's see here. So that was Exodus 17. And Sister Sadia, you did a great job, sis. You did a great job reading. I know some of the terms were a little hard.
Oh, it's
very
kind of
engaging.
hard. It's kind of hard only because I lose air or breath. How do you say? It gets dry, and then some of the letters don't come out. Like I want to put that A in the Amalek. Sometimes it'll come out, sometimes it won't. So, but I did pretty good.
That was
And
beautiful.
so,
It was very engaging. Very
thank you,
engaging.
Miko. Thank you.
You
Yeah,
do
we're doing
good,
better.
sister. She does so good. It's amazing to hear her. And her voice, remember how she sounded before?
Oh,
She
yes.
practically sounds the same now.
Yep.
She almost sounds just the same as she used to. Her voice.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's it's perfectly back to normal.
Yes, yes.
Kind of
You know,
interesting. Oh, go
can I
ahead,
just,
sis, my bad.
I just wanted to say something when she was reading and you brought up that a hand upon the stone, oops, of Yahuwah. Wait, is that the one? Wait a minute. Where you said they kept their hands up? No. What was the verse you just read right before you went?
I think it was
Where,
verse 12 or something. Where
yeah,
it's
go
talking
back
about
about holding up their arms. Wait a minute.
whenever, verse 11.
And he held up his hands, one on, one on one side and the other on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. I was just imagining holding up your arms
Oh,
like
my.
that. Can you imagine till
No.
sundown? So what I got from that was supernatural.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were, that was totally supernatural. That's how I seen it. That Yahuwah just gave him that supernatural power to do that. And I don't know how anybody could hold up their hands or arms that long.
Yeah, that definitely was supernatural, definitely.
Right? Yeah.
Because also, as long as he kept it up, they were winning to the army.
Yeah,
So there was like a direct connection between the
yeah.
staff.
Right?
And
Yeah. Yes.
that's why it reminded me of Yahusha is going to rule with a rod of iron. You have the rod of Yahuwah.
Yes. Yes. There you go.
So, it kind of symbolizes, that object symbolizes in a way of Yahusha ruling and reigning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But to us, I mean, like to me, when Sadie was reading that and you went over it, it just shows me that he will do whatever. He's the only one that can do what only he can do, Yahuwah, right? That I know within my own strength, I couldn't keep my arms up for probably
No.
10 minutes.
I hear you. Definitely.
So, but he can only do what he can only do. And that's it.
You guys all held my hand up. That's for sure. You guys, through my ordeal, you held my hands up by praying.
Oh, we upheld you for sure, man. We upheld you.
Yes, you guys.
We upheld
Very
you.
definitely.
Yes.
But most of all, Yahuwah upheld you with his mighty right hand and arm.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I wonder what that phrase, if that phrase is referring to the right hand here at the end of this chapter. It says a hand upon the throne of Yahuwah, and we know that Yahusha allegorically, because I don't think it's literal that he's sitting on the palm of his right hand.
He always uses his right hand.
Yeah. So, allegorically, Yahusha's at Yahuwah's right hand in heaven. So the fact that it says right after it says Yahuwah's my banner, it says a hand upon the throne of Yahuwah. I kind of wonder if that's like hinting to Yahusha there.
Yeah.
And so, but if anyone knows, let me know what was the reason he's cursing the whole genealogy of Amalek here. Please let me know. I honestly, my memory's not good on that.
Why he's cursing?
He's like basically blotting them out. Like, he's
Was
saying,
it the Amalekites that attacked them when they were coming out of Egypt? They were killing off some of the stragglers behind. You remember that?
Yeah.
think it was the Amalekites that was doing it. I could be wrong.
That could be a big reason why, but yeah, basically says he's cursing them like he cursed the Canaanite lineage, pretty much. He's saying, I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. So they'll be his whole lineage, the Amalekites should be they're pronounced to be completely destroyed and blotted out, even their memory. Like kind of like how he tells them in Deuteronomy, when you go into their land, you see their gods, you see their idols, you're gonna wipe out even the memory of those gods and all that. Oh, go ahead, Brother Hari. I see you got your hand up. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, yeah, I think we hear more about it in Deuteronomy 25, verses 17 and 18.
Okay, let me write that down, and I'm going to go to that. Let's see here. So I do remember there was a verse talking about them, and then the Moabites. Let's see here. Yeah, remember what Amalek did to you on the way as you came out of Egypt, how he attacked you on the way when you were faint and weary and cut off your tail. Now, that's got to be allegoric.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much assuming here that's got to be allegoric. Those who were lagging behind you, and he did not fear Yahuwah or fear Elohim. So yeah. Definitely a big reason there. So thank you, Brother Hari. So we get our answer right there in confirmation to what Brother Yahusha brought out. So yeah, I just wrote that down because that's a pretty important reference there. So that shows that there's a reason. Yahuwah always has a reason why he's blotting out certain lineages. It's never like, I know atheists, they look at the Old Testament like, he's a genocidal maniac. No. He's blotting people out because of their sin a lot of the times. And the Canaanites, because of the progenitor of the Canaanites pretty much slept with his dad's own wife. So, that's a pretty big deal, So you can go back to, what is that, Mom? Genesis 9, and gives the story of the sin of Ham and all that. So, the Canaanites were pretty much cursed from that point on. So you see that Yahuwah is actually and really for multiple reasons, the Canaanites were to be utterly wiped out. If you understand Genesis 6 and all that, that has a lot to do with it as well. Because a lot of the Canaanites were also Nephilim. A lot of them were beings that were not supposed to exist to begin with. So there's a lot of reasons why the Canaanites are utterly wiped out. And they're living in land that doesn't belong to them, really. When you look at the covenant of Abraham and all that, Yahuwah promised that land of Canaan to Abraham's descendants. He never promised it to Ham's descendants. So they're living in land that's not theirs. That was never given to them. So there's multiple reasons we could actually provide from scripture, enough of a reasoning why Yahuwah did that to told his people to utterly wipe out all those tribes in the land of Canaan. Okay, so we got Exodus 18 here. Let's see. I don't know if that's Sister Josie. Would you like to read, or I don't know if that was a little solo.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I had my speaker on. I'm clearing my throat. Sure. That's funny. You said Exodus. Where are you? Because I'm going to read it from my Bible app here.
Okay, Exodus chapter 18.
18. Okay. 1 second. Shemot 18. And Yethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moshe and for Israel, his people, that Yahuwah had brought Israel out of Mitzrayim. And Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, took Tishphora, the wife of Moshe, after he had sent her back, and her two sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, for he said, the Elohim of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Yithro, Moshe's father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. And he had said to Moshe, I, your father-in-law Yithro, am coming to you with your wife and her two sons with her. And Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other about their welfare, and they went into the tent. Excuse me. And Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and to the Mitzrites from Israel, for Israel's sake, and the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahuwah had delivered them. And Yithro rejoiced for all the good which Yahuwah had done for Israel, whom he had delivered, excuse me, out of the hand of the Mitzrites. And Yithro said, blessed be Yahuwah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Mitzrites. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all the mighty ones, indeed, in the matter in which they acted proudly above them. Then Yithro, the father-in-law of Moshe, brought an ascending offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim. And Aharon came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moshe before Elohim. And it came to be on the next day that Moshe sat to rightly rule the people. And the people stood before Moshe from morning until evening. And when the father-in-law of Moshe saw all that he did for the people, he said, what is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself and all the people stand before you from morning until evening? And Moshe said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah. And the father-in-law of Moshe said to him, what are you doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out, for the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself. Now listen to my voice. Let me counsel you, and Elohim be with you. Stand before Elohim for the people, and you shall bring the matters to Elohim, and you shall enlighten them concerning the laws and the Torah, and show them the way in which they should walk and the work which they do. But you yourself seek out from all the people able men who fear Elohim, men of truth, hating unfair gain, and place these over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they shall rightly rule the people at all times. And it shall be that they bring every great matter to you, but they themselves rightly rule every small matter. So make it lighter for yourself, for they shall bear with you. If you do this word, and Elohim shall command you, then you shall be able to stand, and all this people also go to their place in peace. And Moshe listened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he said. And Moshe chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And they rightly ruled the people at all times. The hard matters they brought to Moshe, but they rightly ruled every small matter themselves. And Moshe sent off his father-in-law and went away to his own land. Wow, to have a father-in-law like that.
My bad. I was muted. I didn't even realize.
You were muted. I see
Yeah.
your lips kind of going.
Yeah. So I found it interesting since as you were reading this, this chapter reiterates what we read in chapter 15 earlier. Again, Yahuwah being spoken as above all the other mighty ones. And I find that interesting because if it's wood and stone, like what if they're just wood and stone and there's no being that are real that those wood and stone represent, why does Jethro feel the need to say what he says here? Why does Masha feel the need to say what he says in the Song of Masha, who is like you among the mighty ones? It's like they keep reiterating like Yahuwah is the king of the mighty ones. He is above these mighty ones of the nation. So I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, I just Jethro's a very wise man, very wise man. And you can see today like how this affects different fellowships when you only got one shepherd or one main leader, and how this can be overwhelming when you have a huge group of people. Thankfully, there's no fellowship out there that has thousands or millions of people, because that would really be I can't even imagine what Masha dealt with as a leader. I can't even fathom what he dealt with that huge multitude in the wilderness. Go ahead, brother Yahusha.
He almost seems to be moving in the office of a prophet. And I say that, we see him previously in the beginning of Exodus, we see him being called a priest of Midian. And I almost wonder if he was a priest unto Yahuwah at that point. Just because so in verse 23, you see him say, if you will do this thing, Yahuwah shall strengthen you. He's saying Yahuwah will do this, and Yahuwah honors this. You don't just, it's not a light matter to just take it upon yourself to say Yahuwah will do this, and then Yahuwah ends up doing it. So yeah, this is what I saw.
This by tradition, I think the Judean Yahudim tradition that I know of is that Jethro and his whole family, like the Midianites, would have already known Yahuwah at the minimum. They would have already been worshipers of Yahuwah. Like they weren't converts. From what I remember looking into with the traditions, is that they because I think Midianites actually come from Abraham, if I'm not mistaken. They actually come from his line. So they would have already known about Yahuwah. You kind of see that a little tradition, a little bit in the Ten Commandments movie where Zipporah, she first just met Masha and she's already talking about that's Yahuwah's mountain. That's his mountain. So she already knows that Sinai is his mountain. Without Masha even telling her or anyone telling her and Jethro already know of Yahuwah and all that. So yeah, I would agree with you that it's very likely he could be a priest of Yahuwah that just lived in Midian. That's why he's called the priest of Midian. You know, um, it could be very possible that that's the case, because the Midianites at this point in time, there's no really pagan Midianites. You don't see that until like later on in the book of Numbers. You don't see that at all. Like, I would assume the Midianites were all like Hebrews. They were all, spiritually speaking, they were not worshiping other gods or anything, or other mighty ones that that it would be strange to them, to advise Masha in this way. So at the minimum, I think Jethro's definitely a worshiper of Yahuwah, and very possible that he's a prophet, or at least a priest of Yahuwah. It seems like that's something we could go by, since he's
I
called.
mean, not anyone can just say that Yahuwah is going to do this if you do this. I mean, I could say like if you do this, Yahuwah is going to do this, but doesn't mean Yahuwah is going to do it. But in this case, what he said actually came to pass.
Yeah, very possible that he was a prophet. It's very possible. It's very possible. Yeah. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that jumped out to me in this chapter. Obviously, we have the overwhelmingness of the people. We already talked about that. That's one major issue for a shepherd that he has to deal with, is that we already talked about verse 11 there.
Verse 15 is missing judgment.
Yeah, that's interesting. There might be a weird doctrine that the Masoretes had, that that they had to go through Masha for everything about Yahuwah. Either that, or it's a ESV translation error, because it says, they paraphrase and just say, because people come to me to inquire of Elohim. So it seems like the ESV is either paraphrasing, or the Masoretic is just missing right ruling or judgment. Because the Septuagint would say, because the people come to me to seek right ruling from Yahuwah or Elohim here. So it's more specific in the Septuagint. The word judgment's not there, it seems like, in the Masoretic. So there could be a weird doctrine that the Masoretes were, they would have believed that these people had to go to Masha for every little thing, which actually in the chapter shows that's not the case. Masha is actually being advised by his father-in-law, listen, this is what you should do. For the little matters, they don't even need to come to you. For the little matters, they need to judge themselves. And we see that in the chapter. So the way the Masoretic has it read in verse 15 doesn't even make any sense. Just to randomly inquire of Yahuwah, on a general sense, doesn't make any sense. Like, they have to go to Masha to inquire of Yahuwah. It's almost like I guess you could say an intercessor role, but that's more or less almost like a rabbinical system type of thing. Like, they got to go to the pastor, they got to go to the rabbi, type of thing. I don't know. I might be reading too much into that, but go ahead, brother Yahusha.
That just really shows you that, like, Yahuwah expects us to use common sense at times. Like, we don't have to go to him for every little decision. And I know that I saw that a lot in Christianity, where you were constantly having to go, like, any little decision, someone would have to go to Yahuwah and hear a word of prophecy, or a word of, not that they were really hearing real prophecy, but it was like every little decision, you had to go, or sometimes he just expects us to use common sense and use the judgment of his word that he's given us.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, verse 15, I didn't catch that the first time though. That was pretty interesting that they leave out right ruling. Interesting. And we see, I think that's it for chapter 18. So I think we'll do chapter 19, and that might be it for the day, I'm thinking. So we're gonna do chapter 19, which is gonna deal with actually the Mount Sinai event where they first go up to Mount Sinai, and Yahuwah is telling them, listen, you got to do this, do that, make sure you're cleansed before you go up there. And it's kind of interesting. So this chapter is going to deal with, how almost like a foreshadowing to the temple type of thing, where only the priests could go to the most set apart place, in the tabernacle and all that. So I always look at this chapter like this is the foreshadowing of the you could say, I guess, corporate religious, or I would say corporate worship system, because Yahuwah, because of his set apartness, he tells, don't let the people touch the mountain, don't let the animals go up to the mountain. And he's kind of like already giving Masha like a blueprint to how it should be, how to worship him, and all that. So anyway, so I think just for time's sake, I'll read Exodus 19 for us, just for time's sake. So let me see here. Exodus 19, the people arrive at Sinai. And in the third month of the departure of the children of Yashrael out of the land of Egypt, and on the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai, and they departed from Raphadim. So that's how best I would pronounce that. You have an N there instead of an M. So Raphadim came into the wilderness of Sinai, and there Yashrael encamped before the mountain. And Moshe went up to the mountain of Elohim, and Elohim called him out of the mountain, saying, "These things shall you say to the house of Jacob. You shall report them to the children of Yashrael. You have seen all that I have done to the Egyptians, and I took you up as," not literally, as upon eagle's wings, "and I brought you near to myself." A lot of confusion in that verse from the Masoretic, because they leave out the word as.
No, that's right.
A lot of confusion there. Yahuwah doesn't literally have wings, guys. Okay. He's not an angel. Okay. So, and now, if you will indeed hear my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be to me a peculiar people above all nations, for the whole earth is mine. Interesting. That Mom, does yours say among?
If you obey me fully and keep my commandment, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession.
But it says among, right? Interesting.
No, I don't have the word among.
No. Okay, I'm gonna read this again. What I'm asking you is, when it says, "You shall be to me a peculiar possession," does it say above all nations or among all nations?
Out of
all nations.
Of all nations.
Yeah, so it's siding with among. Okay. So the reason I asked that is the Septuagint says above, like above all nations. So like better than, like above, like the head and the tail. So just found that interesting. The Masoretic says among instead of above, which the rest of the times he constantly says to Israel, if you were to obey me, I would have made you above. He would have esteemed them above all nations. So found that interesting. And you shall be to me a royal priesthood, set apart nation. These words shall you speak to the children of Yashrael. And Moshe came and called the elders of the people and set them before them all these words, which Elohim appointed them. And all the people answered with one accord and said, "All of these things that Elohim has spoken, we will do. Hearken to." And Moshe reported these words to Elohim. The people are prepared against the third day for giving of the law. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, Lo, I come to you in a pillar of a cloud. Now, this is interesting because we just read a couple chapters earlier that the steam of Yahuwah appeared in a cloud. So now he's saying he's appearing in a pillar of a cloud. Interesting. That the people may hear me speaking to you and may believe you forever. So just making a little note here, because we're gonna, at some point, Yahuwah willing, we're gonna redo that oneness study. That oneness study has a little bit of leaven in it from a couple years ago that I just want to redo and tune it, fine tune it a little bit. That the people may hear me speaking to you and may believe me forever. Moshe reported the words of this people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, go down and solemnly charge the people. Set them apart today and tomorrow and let them wash their garments. And let them be ready against the third day. For on the third day, Yahuwah will descend upon Mount Sinai before all the people. Oh man, is that a oneness verse right there? On the third day, he'll descend. Interesting. And who is the one that ascended after the third day? Interesting. Interesting. Even though I get it's not literally after the third day, I get it. I get the semantics you could say is like, oh well, he stayed for a while with the apostles. I get it. Go ahead, brother Yahusha.
And doesn't it say in Proverbs, right? Who has ascended but the one who has descended? What is his name and what is his name?
Yeah. Proverbs 30, verse 4. So with Exodus 19:11. All right. I gotta write a lot of this stuff down. The mountain must not be touched. You shall separate the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up into the mountain, nor touch any part of it. Everyone that touches the mountain shall surely die. So again, we see like limits here that are very similar to the temple system. A hand shall not touch it, for shall be stoned with stones or shot through with a dart. Whether beast or whether man, it shall not live. When the voices and the trumpets and cloud departed from off the mountain, they shall come up on the mountain. And I find it interesting. It talks about darts here. Just a funny little tidbit. The tradition about the Tower of Babel supposedly is that these men try to shoot darts at Yahuwah into heaven, and Yahuwah sent the darts back on them and killed them. So I find it interesting. It talks about darts here. If anyone goes up, there will be darts shot at them. So I find that interesting. Whether beast or whether man, it shall not live. When the voices and the trumpets in the cloud departed from off the mountain, they shall come up on the mountain. So we see trumpets, voices, trumpets, and the cloud. Now, this to me reminds me of the seven trumpets and all that, of Revelation and all that. So I find that interesting. And we know that a trumpet precedes Yahusha's second coming. So that's very interesting to me. And Moshe went down from the mountain to the people and set them apart. They washed their clothes, and he said to the people, be ready for 3 days. Come not near to a woman. The reasoning I would think of is that he wants them to be pure on the wedding day. You know, in essence, the third day is when they actually get married, and Israel becomes Yahuwah's bride. So, you know, it was a marriage covenant, so that would make sense. And it came to pass on the third day, as the morning drew near, there were voices and lightnings on a dark cloud on Mount Sinai. The voice of the trumpet sounded loud, and all the people in the camp trembled. Go ahead, brother Yusha.
I forget if it does or if it doesn't. I might be mixing up stuff. But does it talk about becoming ritually unclean after sexual intercourse?
Yes, and that's probably why too. He wants them to be clean. Yeah. Because if they know their wives, then they're ritually unclean for a whole day. So that's probably why he's saying for the 3 days, don't come near to a woman. He wants to make sure they're clean. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure there's other reasons too, because technically they could know their wives on the first day and not on the second, and they would be fine. But there's probably other reasons to that. I think there's definitely a purity, spiritual purity. He probably wants them to be extra pure because this is, it's kind of like how a man would want a virgin as his bride. He would want, in essence, he would want that. The whole concept of a woman wearing white on her wedding day, and the old joke that if a woman is a harlot, wearing white ain't gonna clean her up. That old joke. So that I think there's a lot of reasons why he probably didn't want them knowing their wives before this marriage covenant happens. Masha led the people forth out of the camp to meet Elohim. They stood by under the camp, and the mountain of Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because Elohim had descended upon it in fire, and the smoke went up as the smoke of a furnace. And the people were exceedingly amazed. This is interesting. It kind of reminds me, it's kind of like a opposite parallel of Revelations 9. Because Revelations 9:11 is when the bottomless pit opens up and you got smoke, so it's kind of like a opposite paradigm, but interesting. And the people were exceedingly amazed. So you can imagine this. Yahuwah is coming from heaven. And by the way, for people that say he doesn't leave his throne, he doesn't ever come to earth leaving his throne, you might want to look at this verse in Exodus 19, because literally it says he descended. It doesn't say his presence or the Shekinah. It says he himself descended, left his throne, descended in fire. Okay, so he would have descended literally from the third heaven onto the mountain. And smoke and fire went up. Smoke is a furnace, and they were amazed. So you could imagine that sight they're seeing right there. Obviously, that's why they're afraid. They're seeing all this stuff. They're hearing the lightnings and thunders, which I believe, I don't know if it's in scripture, but I know there's other texts that hint that lightnings that they would have heard that possibly could have been messengers. Sometimes messengers are described as lightning. The only canonical reference that comes to mind here is in the book of Luke. Yahushua says that Satan fell out of heaven as lightning. So messengers sometimes are allegorically characterized as lightning, or sounding like lightning, even when they're in heaven, and all that. So anyway, thought I would just bring that up. Verse 19, the sounds of the trumpet were waxing cold, waxing very much louder. So the trumpets are getting louder. Trumpets in heaven are getting louder. Masha spoke, and Elohim answered with him with a voice, and Yahuwah came down upon Mount Sinai on top of the mountain. And Yahuwah called Masha to the top of the mountain, and Masha went up. We're at Exodus 19, verse 21, for those just joining in. All right, so, and Yahuwah spoke to Masha, saying, go down and solemnly charge the people, lest at any time they draw near to Yahuwah to gaze, and a multitude of them fall. I think part of this reason too is Yahuwah doesn't want them seeing a shape. He doesn't want them tempted to see an image, and then they're going to start making graven images.
Oh, right.
And you'll even see later on, Yahuwah later on in the Torah, doesn't he say, Mom, in Deuteronomy, he's like, you did not see an image at the mountain.
Right.
So don't even think to make a idol. I'd even give you guys an image. So knock it off. Stop.
Yeah.
So don't, Yahuwah knows us so well. He's like, man,
Yes,
if I give them an inch, they're gonna take a foot. They're, I can't give them nothing. So I can't let them see me as I am. No, that ain't gonna happen. So, and we don't even see him as he is technically scripturally until our physical new rebirth, when we become resurrected, that's the only time we're ever going to see him in his fullness. So we'll have no sin left in us because we're going to be resurrected. There's not going to be flesh in us, sinful flesh in us anymore. We're not going to be fallen anymore. But anyway, so and let the priest draw near to Yahuwah Elohim. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Instead of just Yahuwah, it has Yahuwah and then Elohim after it. Interesting. Little Mazarites are trying to take that away. I wonder why. Oh, maybe because this is Yahusha talking here. Oh, I don't know. I'm just throwing a wild guess. Because it has in the English substitution has Lord then God. So, oh, I wonder why they would want to get rid of that. Oh, okay, because they could just say, oh, this is Hashem talking to the people. Yeah. So yeah, that was definitely on purpose, in my opinion. That's another thing I'm gonna have to add to our study that we've been doing. So let me see here. Let's Yahuwah break out against them. All right, so where exactly did I see that there? See here, I was just added to, I think it was verse 23 or 22. Yeah, here we go. So Exodus 19:22, LXX has Yahuwah Elohim instead of just Yahuwah. Interesting. Things that make you go, All right, here we go. And Moshe said to Elohim, the people will not be able to approach to the mountain of Sinai, for you have solemnly charged us, saying, set boundaries to the mountain and set it apart. And Yahuwah said to him, go and descend, come up, you and Aaron with you. But let not the priests and the people force their way to come up to Elohim, lest Yahuwah destroy some of them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them. Very interesting. So that's pretty much the end of our reading. I do find it interesting that the Septuagint shows Yahusha literally there in Exodus 19:22, because the fact that it has Theos or Elohim after Kurios or Yahuwah, so it shows Yahusha pre-incarnate there in verse 22, actually commanding Masha to tell them, who's allowed to come up to the mountain, who's not. So basically, we kind of see a foreshadowing of this almost a sacrificial system, because you have the priests and Aaron allowed to come near to Masha, but the people have to stay down at the bottom of the mountain. They can't go anywhere near Yahuwah's presence physically. So I just found that interesting. So yeah. So anyway, so hopefully you guys got something out of this study today. Please stay tuned. We will be doing, Yahuwah willing, we will be doing this study next week, continuing every Shabbat day. We're really planning on doing these book by book, chapter by chapter readings to, the goal, Yahuwah willing, is to get through the whole canon, the whole scriptures within a year. That's the goal. We'll see how far we get. But hopefully you guys got some edification out of this, and iron sharpening iron and all that. So please stay tuned also for our part 2 of finding Yahusha in the Tanakh. I found some more ammo when going through Yahuwah's word here with you guys today. So there will probably be at least 1 or 2 more titles to add to that study. So please stay tuned, everyone. And all of our brothers and sisters out there, Shabbat Shalom.